Welcome back to Understanding the Psyche. Last time we spoke about cultural impact on motivation. Today, I want to talk about our mindset and how our mindset impacts our ability to be successful in our life. There are two types of mindset. One is called the fixed mindset, and the other one is called the growth mindset. The fixed mindset is a type of mindset where an individual believes that his or her abilities or what he or she is able to accomplish has been set in stone the moment that he or she has been born into this world. As opposed to a growth mindset, these individuals believe that they have the ability to carve out the life that they want, to carve out the success that they want. They look at life through the lens that they can continue to grow to become successful. Now, I want to go back and talk about the fixed mindset and the importance of why we need to understand what a fixed mindset is and how to avoid falling into a trap of having a fixed mindset. First of all, I want you to understand that just because you have a fixed mindset doesn't mean you can't change. You will believe that you can because that's what a fixed mindset individual believes in, that they're incapable of changes. A lot of times when you hear individuals say that, I'm fated to have the life that I'm having. I can't um climb the social ladder. I can't you know get out of whatever hole I'm in. Granted, that is true to a certain extent that, there are limitations to what we can do given the resources that we have in our life, but it does not mean that we cannot grow. It only means that we might have it more difficult than others to climb the social ladder or to improve our living situation, but it doesn't mean that we need to give up on ourselves or we need to be fine with the status quo. When we become fine with the status quo, the only person we're hurting is ourselves. And I asked the question, going back to understanding identity and our life purposes, do you not respect yourself enough that you're willing to, you know, give in to the thought that no matter what you do, you can't improve your life, or you shouldn't, give yourself a chance at life to have the success that you can only dream of, or either, you fall into the thinking of other people, the reason why they have the success that they have is because they were fortunate to be born into family that provides them the opportunity to be successful. Now, the question comes, how do you get out of this mindset? Because that's a very important question, and that's one of the hardest question for individual who falls victim to a fixed mindset to get out of, especially if they were raised with that type of mindset. You need to understand, mindset is not something that's permanent. It's something that is very malleable that can be changed throughout one's lifetime. What we need to understand that accompanies our life, that affects our mindset to the greatest extent, is the challenges that we face in life. Every one of us face different obstacles, different barriers, different challenges. Just because somebody is successful in their life doesn't mean that they never face challenges or obstacle, or that they are also facing ongoing challenges and obstacle. We have to come to an understanding that just because we overcome one obstacle or barrier to our life doesn't mean that we won't have another obstacle or barrier that we will face down the line. That's why it's very important to understand this so that we can have a mindset where it is a focus on being a growth mindset. A growth mindset individual looks at these things like barriers, setbacks, as an opportunity to learn, an opportunity to improve themselves. But they also understand that they're never satisfied with life, because the moment they're satisfied with life is the moment they're going to fall victim into being comfortable with life. As human beings, we have a tendency to want things that are simple instead of complex. We don't really want to put an effort to every single day think about what we need to do, how we should live our life. We rather go through the motion and leave the time that we have to think about things to just enjoying things that we want to do. But I ask you this, is the thing that you want to do, is it really the things that you need to do in life? And this goes back to my first video on identity and life purposes. Without understanding our life purposes, which is essentially kind of a roadmap to our life, it's very hard for us to grow in life, to become the successful person that either we believe we are able to be or we envision ourselves to be. We have to come to an understanding that just because we want to, or desire, I should say, to be successful or to be someone who is different from who we are today, a better version of ourselves, so to speak, doesn't mean that we can get there. In order to get there, it's very important that we have a growth mindset, that we have a strong mindset that sets us up for success instead of one that sets up for failure. No, I'm not saying that having a fixed mindset doesn't cannot get you to success, but I want you to evaluate yourself and ask yourself, the success that you have right now in your life, is it the success that you, when you, at the end of your life, when you look back, is it the success that you dreamed of or want for your life? Because just because you have money, status, fame, doesn't mean that that is true success. True success, when if you really look at it and really examine it and really try to understand what true success means, you will come to an understanding that success equates to self-fulfillment. What do I mean by self-fulfillment? I go back to our life purpose in that as human beings, we're born to serve others. We're born to help improve the lives of other and society as a whole. But I can keep on talking about this. I can keep on stressing about this. But I also understand that until you as an individual come to a realization of where your motivation lies, it's very hard for you to get to that understanding so that you can have the success that you are looking for in life. And that goes back to my other video when I talked about extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. Having the right motivation is key to success in different aspects of your life. We need to we need to be at a point in our life where we shouldn't only be looking at financial success, because at the end of the day, you can have all the money in the world or even all the power in the world, because a lot of us want want that. But what we don't realize is, okay, you have the power, but if you really look at it, people only respect you because of the power you have or the money you have, because they know that a they can benefit from the money you have or the power you have or the status you have if they hang out with you. B, at the end of the day, you're just allowing people to a certain extent take advantage of the power or the fame or the money that you have. But when you go home after hanging out with these individuals who, you know, you you get into a thought process, or you lie to yourself that I have all these friends, but are they really your friends? So at the end of the day, like I said, you go home, you sit down, and when it's just you, or you and your significant others, you still don't feel accomplished. You still feel empty on the inside. And that emptiness is is something that, as a human being, we none of us want to experience. But yet so many of us experience it, although we know what we need to do to get out of it. But the problem is we're unable to do so because we don't want to change. Or this is another problem with having a fixed mindset. A fixed mindset will look at that as like, there I don't want to change because there's so many unknowns out there. And when you think like that, when you're afraid of change because you don't know what's going to happen, especially when you reach a success in your life, and that success has brought you, fame, power, money. Those things, at the end of the day, it it's not life fulfilling, but you lie to yourself thinking that they are fulfilling, but they're not. They're just empty fulfillment that leaves you empty. True fulfillment is something that deep down inside brings you joy, brings you happiness, and it shows. That's the one thing people don't understand, is when you're truly happy on the inside, it shows because you're radiating happiness. It's I don't want to say the word infectious, because infectious has like a negative connotation, like when you're thinking of a disease that infects other people and causes them to have their mental physical health deteriorate. But essentially, what I'm trying to look for, the word I should have said, is contagious on a positive note. You have to, we have to start thinking that we as an individual have the power to change lives. But we can only change lives when we have a growth mindset, when we focus on improving ourselves, asking the question, what can I do for society as a whole? Instead of just keep asking the question, what can society do for me? But it's like I said, it's very hard to change from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. it's it's not a switch that one day you can just flip the switch and you're going to change. No, it's a process. And where does that process begin? By being willing to look yourself in the mirror. And that's what I addressed in my first video, in regards to life purposes. Being willing to look yourself in the mirror and see you for who you are, accept that you have flaws, and you have up to the moment you start self-reflecting and looking yourself in the mirror, that you have lived a life full of selfishness, and that needs to change. Because if you do not change, you're not able to find true happiness. Now, when you think about it, it's pretty weird when we talk about you need to accept you for who you are, change to find true happiness. You might question, like, if I change to and start living my life for others, serving others, to be truly happy, isn't that certain extent like I'm still being selfish because I'm living for others, so at the end of the day I'm being happy? No, there's a big difference. Here is the difference. When you live for others, you're you're trying to help others find success in their life. You're trying to help people reach the best version of themselves. Yes, you'll be happy for them. You have to understand that the happiness is not for you, that happiness is for them. You're happy that you're able to make an impact in their lives because then you feel like you have lived your true purpose, your true calling in life. And with that comes a strong, interesting motivation to keep on doing that. And, I will admit something. As a counselor who helps individuals find employment, who helps individuals be able to take care of themselves, a lot of time it's very hard to keep on doing that when you see individuals aren't willing to take my advice, aren't willing to, you know, heed, take directions and go down the path that, I'm trying to steer them down because I have looked at their strengths and weaknesses and have identified, what are their strengths, what are they capable of, and also trying to help them understand that today where they are they today, what do they need right now in this moment to be able to set them up for success in the future. It's hard because a lot of times people, like I say, as individuals, we have desire, we have wants, but we need to be able to distinguish the two. Is that we need to understand we have needs. We need to address these needs because these needs are more important than what our wants are. When we feed into our wants, we're not able to be the best version of ourselves. We're not able to give back to society as a whole. But like I say, as human beings, we exist to serve. And only by fulfilling that duty in our lives are we able to be truly happy, because our happiness is for the world as a whole. Our happiness is not for us. So it is very important we change the way we think. We had And changing the way we think, like I said earlier, it's not that easy. It takes effort, it takes time. And a lot of times you're going to be tempted as you go down this journey with me to change your lives for the better, to improve yourself, because you're used to a certain way of living. You're used to a certain way of thinking. So to ask you to change is asking you to get rid of yourself, to accept you for who you are in the past, and to move forward and venture into an unknown where you have no clue what the future holds, where you have no clue what the outcome is. But only when you're able to be willing to adapt this growth mindset and to understand that because the future is not set in stone yet, you have an opportunity to write your own story. You have an opportunity to take control of your life, because whether or not you are willing to admit it or see it, when you live with a fixed mindset, you end up letting others write your story. You end up letting other dictate how your life will be without really realizing it. The reason why I'm saying it like this is because you you might recognize it, but you're not willing to put in the effort to take control, because the key emphasis here is effort. As human beings, we do not want to put in the effort to be successful. We don't want to put in the effort to obtain the things we want to obtain. You know, there's a saying in Vietnamese culture that I have referenced in my first video, where we have a tendency of standing on one mountain, looking over to another mountain, wishing that we can be over there. But that's only wishful thinking. If you're not going to put in the effort, the journey to go down the mountain that you're on, venture through the woods, through the village, through rivers, or whatever obstacle there is on the road to get to the other side of the mountain where true happiness and true success will be waiting for you, you will never be able to obtain that. And you're eventually, you have to come to the realization each one of us as human beings, our lives is short. There's a time limit to it. And when that time comes, when it expires, if you have not been able to live the life that you know deep down you need to live, but you're not willing to put in the effort or admit that you need to live because A, you're so selfish and you're just thinking about yourself, or B, you just don't want to put in the effort, then when you look back, there's gonna be only regret. And when regret kicks in, you're gonna be left in drowning in depression, drowning in no in trying to escape and run away from your failures because you know that you have failed, but yet you're not willing to admit it. So you live this life that is very miserable, but it does not just affect you. You have to understand every decision you make, no matter how small it is, no matter whether you think it's your life, so you get to choose how to live your life. No, it's yes, I admit you have a choice, but you really don't have a choice. You see, our lives are not set in stone. We have opportunities to be successful. We have opportunities to choose our life. It's pretty weird because I'm going back to kind of this explanation is like the fixed mindset type of looking at things, but it's not really a fixed mindset of looking at things. Every one of us is given an opportunity to be successful. We all have a choice. We can go left or we can go right. Whether or not we go down the right route is up to us. But understand, the further along you are down a certain route, especially if it's the wrong route to go down, it makes it harder to turn back and be successful. You see, for those of us who live in a society where you can go back to school at the age of 40 and get a degree and still have a career, it's yes, we have the opportunities to rewrite some of the wrongs that we have, or rewrite some of the wrong choices we have made in life. But in actuality, you're not really rewriting the wrong choices. You're just making a new choice down the line to kind of go back, or not go back, but to go down the route that you needed to go. But essentially, you have already wasted a a chunk of amount of time that you could have utilized your life to serve others. And in societies where you're not able to do that, you don't. There are certain society in Asia, like the moment you hit 25, if you haven't made a career for yourself, if you don't have a degree, guess what? You don't have that opportunity anymore. That's why it's very crucial that you carve out a life for yourself. And all of this that I'm explaining to you goes back to my first video, like I said earlier, identity and life purposes. If you do not know who you are, if you do not figure out what is your purpose in life and why do you exist in this world, it's going to be hard for you to be successful, to live the life that you want. And I know that been stressing about this multiple times in this video, but it is warranted to stress this out because as human beings, when we hear the word effort, when we hear that we need to put in our full attention, to put in our energy to do something, we don't want to do it. We rather have others do it for us and we reap the benefit from it. But at the end of the day, what a lot of us don't understand is true happiness requires sacrifice. And only when we can change our mindset and understand that, so that we can put in the effort, live the life we want, be successful, so that we can find the true joy and happiness that will keep on motivating us to live our lives for others. So this goes full circle. Living for others brings us joy, but we need that joy to be able to keep going, to keep on helping others, which is a very interesting scenario because you would question me, like I said earlier, how do you, how do you, aren't you supposed to, you said that I'm supposed to live my life for others, but you're saying at the end of the day, living my life for others brings myself joy, then aren't I just, serving myself? Aren't I being selfish? Like I said earlier, you're not being selfish. Joy, like I said earlier, it's contagious in a good way. So when we continue this cycle of joy, when we, pass it along to others, and when other people understand the same thing that we're trying to help them understand, that we understand, and they pass it along slowly and eventually, everybody is going to share in this joy. The world's going to be a better place. But at the end of the day, you cannot wait for others to be the joy in your life. You cannot wait for others to bring you joy. You need to be the one that brings joy to others, to see it event, because only then will you find meaning in your life. And that those meaning will bring you motivation, no matter whether or not you actually see the people that you serve or help find joy, actually do find success and joy in their life. So, my challenge to you is this: how are you going to take what I have talked about today in regards to, motivation, success, and all of that, and make it so that you can change your life and your mindset to be a productive members of society, and to be able to bring joy to those you love and those you cherish in your life. If you like my video today, please hit that like button, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe and share. Also, don't hesitate to leave a comment down low below, uh what you like about this video, maybe, or questions that in regards to what I've talked about in this video. Also, if there's any topics that you would like me to talk about in the future, don't hesitate to leave a comment. Thank you for your time. I look forward to talking with you again in my next video.